Hello and welcome back to Under the Word, where we daily wrestle with the scriptures and read it, not merely for information, but formation. There is a dangerous lie many of us, I think we believe when we read the Bible. We assume God works through strong, confident, and heroic people. But the story of Gideon dismantles that assumption completely. You see, Judges chapter 6 through 8, God chooses a man hiding in fear, a man who doubts, a man who repeatedly asks for signs. And what's amazing is that through this man, God defeats an army of over 100,000 soldiers. Why? The answer is simple because God is determined to make something unmistakably clear that victory belongs to the Lord alone, period. You see, this story is not about Gideon's strength. In fact, the protagonist in this story is not Gideon or the 300 and some men that accompanied him, but is God. The story is about God's patience with weak faith and his refusal to share his glory with human pride. And so, if we read this text carefully, it also exposes a sobering truth. Even when God delivers his people, the human heart is still capable of drifting back into idolatry. So let's jump in. In Judges chapter 6, we see the call of Gideon. The chapter opens with what now has become familiar and tragic pattern in the book of Judges. In verse 1, chapter 6, verse 1 says, the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. You see, Israel abandons covenant faithfulness once again. And God allows the Midianites to oppress them for 7 years. The oppression is devastating. And the Midianites swarm the land, the Bible says, like locusts, destroying crops and livestock. Israel is reduced to hiding in caves and mountain strongholds. The nation is economically ruined and spiritually broken. Only then do they cry out to the Lord. But before God sends deliverance, he sends a prophet. And the prophet reminds Israel of something essential. Their suffering is not random. It is the direct consequence of abandoning the God who rescued them from Egypt. You see, this is a theological principle that today in our modern world we struggle to accept. God's discipline is not cruelty, it is a covenant correction. Then we meet Gideon. He is not standing bravely in a battle, he's hiding in a windpress, secretly threshing wheat so the Midianites cannot steal it. And this is where the angel of the Lord greets him with a stunning statement. The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. The irony is unmistakable. Gideon does not feel mighty. In fact, he feels so small, afraid, and insignificant. You see, he responds with a question many believers quietly carry in our hearts. If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? You see, God does not give Gideon a philosophical explanation. Instead, he gives him a commission. Go in the might, go in this might of yours and save Israel. The might. Gideon possesses it. Isn't that amazing? Like I'm still just wrestling with that. The might, you see, like Gideon possesses his possession of it is not personal strength. You know, it's God's calling. See, before Gideon can deliver Israel from Midian, however, God commands him to do something far more dangerous. He must destroy his father's altar to Baal. The enemy outside Israel is not the greatest threat. The enemy inside Israel's worship is. Please let us not mistake that. The enemy outside of Israel is not their greatest threat. The enemy inside Israel's worship is the threat. See, Gideon obeys, but if you notice, he does it at night because he is afraid. See, even in obedience, his faith is still fragile, and yet God uses him anyway. And then we jump to chapter 7, when God rescues the army. By the time Gideon gathers Israel's forces, there was 32,000 men stand ready to fight. But God says something astonishing. The people with you are too many. Why? Because if Israel wins with large army, they will assume the victory came from their own strength. So God begins reducing the army. First, anyone who was afraid may leave. 22,000 men walk away. Only 10,000 remain. God still is not finished. There's still too many. He reduces the army again through the strangest test at a river. In the end, Gideon is left with 300 men, 300 soldiers against a massive Midianite army. From a military standpoint, it's just craziness. It's ludicrous. It's really absurdity if you think about it. From a theological standpoint, it is perfect. See, God intentionally engineers the situation so that power becomes unmistakable. Let me repeat that. God intentionally engineers the situation so that his power becomes unmistakable. The strategy itself is unconventional. No swords at first. Instead, trumpets, torches hidden in jars, and shouting in the night. When the jars are shattered and the trumpets blast, confusion erupts in Midianite camp. The enemy panics and turns their swords on each other. Israel wins without even lifting a single hand or a traditional combat. The lesson is unmistakable. God's victories rarely look like human strategy. He dismantles our confidence in human strength so that we learn to trust his power alone. And then we move to Judges chapter 8, right? The subtle danger after victory is what we read in this chapter. You see, after the battle, Gideon refuses the remaining Midianite kings. He pursues them, right? And secures Israel's deliverance. But in chapter 8, we see something sobering. The greatest spiritual danger often comes after the victory. The people ask Gideon to become their king. Rule over us, you and your son, and your grandson also. At first, Gideon's response was profound and right on. The Lord will rule over you. That statement is theologically amazing and perfect. Israel is meant to be ruled by God, not by human monarchy. But Gideon's actions begin to contradict his words. He collects gold from the spoil of war and creates an ephod, a priestly object. And tragically, the text tells us all Israel hoard after it there. See, the very deliverer God used becomes a stumbling block. You see, my dear friends, this is one of the most sobering lessons in the book of Judges. A person can be used mightily by God and still fall into spiritual compromise. You see, faithfulness must endure beyond the moment of victory. And then Psalm 72, we read about the king of Israel, the king of Israel's true needs. And this psalm provides a powerful contrast to the flawed leadership we see in the book of Judges. See, this psalm describes the reign of a righteous king who governs with justice, protects the poor, and brings peace to the nations. You see, ultimately, the psalm points beyond Solomon and beyond every imperfect ruler in Israel's history. It points to the one true king God promised to send, where the judges were temporary deliverers. The king, with the capital K, will establish a kingdom of righteousness forever. You see, Christians recognize that this hope is fulfilled in Jesus Christ thousands of years later. You see, where Gideon's leadership faltered, Christ's reign is perfect. Where human deliverers fail, Christ saves entirely, completely, and wholly. So here is the truth that we must wrestle with, my dear friends. You see, Judges chapter 6 through 8 that forces us to confront two uncomfortable realities. First, God often works through weak and hesitant people. That faith is not absence of fear. Faith is obedience despite fear. Second, even dramatic experiences with God do not automatically transform our hearts, the human heart. See, Israel saw miracles repeatedly, and yet the cycle of rebellion continued. See, the problem was never a lack of evidence. It was the persistent pull of idolatry within the human heart. This is why the story of Judges quietly prepares us for something greater. Not merely another judge, but a redeeming king who can rescue his people not only from enemies, but from sin itself. So here is how I want to finish this morning. See, the story of Gideon leaves us with both encouragement and warning. The encouragement is this: God does not wait for perfect faith before he begins to work. See, Gideon struggled with fear, hesitation, and doubt, and yet the Lord patiently strengthened him and used him to accomplish something far greater than Gideon ever imagined was possible. But the warning is just as clear. See, spiritual victory is one of spiritual victory in one moment does not guarantee lifelong faithfulness. See, Gideon experienced the power of God firsthand, yet later allowed something he created to become a stumbling block for the nation. You see, the human heart is capable of drifting even after moments of great encounter and great faith. My dear friends, that is why the message of Judges quietly points us toward our deeper need. Not merely better leaders, but a perfect and faithful king. See, for Christians, we must recognize that king is Jesus Christ, the one who does not falter, excuse me, the one who reigns in righteousness and for eternity. So the call for today is simple and serious. My dear brothers and sisters, trust the Lord when you feel weak. Obey Him when faith feels fragile. And guard, please, I beg of us, let us guard our heart carefully, because the greatest battles are often fought after the victory. So that's why I want to encourage us. Please, let's continue come again and again to be under the word. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me today under the word, and for spending part of your day with me as we reflect on the daily reading of going through the Bible in a year. May God bless you and have a blessed Friday. And I'll see you next time, the Lord willing.